Welcome to Hoxworth Unfiltered podcast, brought to you by Hoxworth Blood Center at the University of Cincinnati. I'm your co-host, Ashley Smith, and today we're diving into a new episode of HLA Today with Dr. A, featuring our own Dr. Alquist. How are you today?
Doing well. Thanks again for having me.
Good. You say doing well, but really, like, everybody's getting over some sort of cold thing.
Fighting some kind of local crud, but
Yes.
that's okay. My voice is almost back to 100%, so I'll give you my best.
Yes, well, thank you. Yeah, a lot of people going through that right now, but yeah, we're here to talk about some really fun things happening in the world of HLA, which I always talk about this, that I love evolving sciences.
Sure.
You know, they say in the medical world it's a practice because you're continuing to practice and perfect things.
100%.
And I think it's the same in your line of work as well. So the first thing that we're going to dive into is called virtual cross-matching. So first, just explain to us what that is and how it's being used at Hoxworth.
Sure. So the HLA lab is a mystery to a lot of people. It's a mystery to other people that practice in transplant. It's a mystery to a lot of people. HLA is the work that's happening behind the scenes to help match potential donor organs to recipients on the wait list. And we have thousands of people waiting for organs across the United States. So one of the big hurdles to getting that immunologic green stamp, that thumbs up, please proceed with transplant, is to know that they're immunologically compatible. You want to be able to tell people that this donor organ is going to really work well for you. One of the ways we do that is with cross-matching. I'll try not to lose anyone on this. This is where it gets a little complicated. So historically, cross-matching meant that I got cells from that donor, so I'm pretending it's like a surrogate for that organ. Like I use those cells and I mix them with blood from the recipient and I see what happens. So if there's antibodies in that recipient's sera that attach to those cells, I'd say that's not a good match, because we could put that kidney in someone and I know that their immune system is immediately going to say, no way, not acceptable. So we used to do these, in a test tube essentially, to see if the cells died. Obviously, that's a no-go. If the recipient's blood killed the donor cells, we're not going to give them that organ. But then, technology got more sophisticated, and we started using flow cytometry, which is a way to look at cells using these cool fluorescent tags in a machine. And so then we just looked if there was anything in the blood that would attach to the cells, not necessarily pop them or kill them, but just glom onto them. So much more sensitive, right? Now we have antibodies that are just attaching, not necessarily popping. And we'd say, if we don't see antibodies all over those donor cells, then it's good. But if there's antibodies on those cells with the fluorescent marker, we'd say, no go. We don't want that kidney to go to that person or that organ to go to that person. Well, technology has continued to advance, and now our antibody detection work has gotten really specific. So we have results, we have lists of what antibodies are in people's blood. So we don't really always necessarily need to get that fresh blood sample. We can say, we just tested them in the last 3 months, and we know that nothing has happened in the last 3 months that would have changed that. So we can look at that, and we can do something called a virtual cross-match. So this is what's cool and evolving in the HLA world, and I get very excited about it. Because now I can look at the molecular typing of a donor. So instead of asking for cells to be flown all the way over from several states away, I can say, I've got this molecular profile that was emailed or faxed or sent to us. So I know what that cell type HLA-wise looks like. And I've got my list of antibodies from my waitlisted patient that's in the greater Cincinnati area. And I can just do an assessment, right? You can just look at that list of antibodies and the type of that cell, HLA-wise, and I can tell you if there's antibodies that are going to glom onto it to make it sound like what a flow cross-match would be. I can say if it's going to be compatible, and I don't need blood whizzing all over the United States and the 4 to 6 hour delay for that test to occur. I can give you an answer in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Pretty cool when you think about the time savings, where the person on the wait list is waiting to see if they're going to be the candidate of choice to get that available organ. And it's going to help the people allocating those organs, too, to know where they're going to be flying them or sending them by, plane, train, or automobile to get to that OR, to get to that waiting patient. So virtual cross-match is really an evolution of science, an evolution of us understanding how HLA and immunology works, and the ability to give those results faster and more efficiently.
Is there Does this continue? So, for example, I know Perry Hall was telling us with her kidney that they do testing, even though she already has the kidney. Sometimes there's still testing that they do even after the fact. Is that, and how is that possible, especially with a cadaver organ? How do you still have tissue in the lab? How's that work?
Sure. So the testing for transplant is a lifelong journey.
Okay. That's news to me.
Tested.
Okay.
The donor obviously is going to get tested before the organs go out. So we are going to have on file what that donor's HLA type look like. But that recipient, they're getting tested. They're sending in blood monthly when you're on a wait list, and we're banking it in the HLA lab. So we have freezers galore of everybody in the greater Cincinnati area. Every program we support, we have all this blood banked. So if that offer comes available in the middle of the night, and we have any questions about the virtual cross match, that we could do the flow because we've got the blood in our freezer. And we're also performing testing on that blood, usually every other month. So we have current antibody profiles. So they'd be eligible for that middle of the night, 20-minute virtual cross match assessment. So it's pretty cool how it all develops. But once you get an organ, so our cross match, green light go, we think this is a good pick. Your surgeon agrees, says it's a great size for you. It's the right ABO type. And you get that organ, we have to make sure that your body doesn't start to reject it on the back end. So some people will be on a protocol that's just going to automatically get blood samples done after that transplant, making sure that you're not making antibodies that we know would glom onto that organ. So some people, we might see some changes in their lab values, so their routine labs that they get done, that we all get done on a regular basis, annual exams. If they see some changes in way the kidney functions, there's some labs that tell you, like the BUN or the creatinine kind of shows you how the kidney's behaving. If there's a weird change in those, they might say, we want to make sure it's not rejection, but they don't necessarily want to do a biopsy because that's taking a little piece out of it. We can just check to see if there's antibodies forming. So you send that sample to the HLA lab, and we look if there's any new HLA antibodies cropping up, and sometimes we can see them sneaking up kind of steadily. So they may change your medications, and we'll track to make sure that those antibodies go back down and are not hurting that organ that we gave you.
You mentioned ABO type. Do the donor and recipient have to have the same ABO type?
So they don't have to have the same ABO type, but they need to be ABO compatible.
Oh, okay.
So we want to make sure that the ABO type of the organ that we put in your body will be accepted by your body. We don't want it generating a bunch of antibodies that are going to reject the endothelium. We don't worry about RH type, so the positive or the negative part of your blood, but we do carry about the ABO. So group A, AB, B, or O.
Wow. Okay. Another thing that we were talking about, a very important breakthrough in the world of HLA, NYU recently participated in a pig kidney transplant trial. So this is very fascinating.
This is super cool.
What do you think this could mean for kidney transplants in the future?
So there's a lot of cool work being done in xenotransplantation, which sounds like the Jetsons, right? It's amazing. There's, I think, 4, I may be misspeaking, but I think there's several companies in the United States that are trying to create the best genetically engineered pig. It was wild. And you think, why pigs, right? Yeah. So the reason we like pigs is because they grow real fast. They're easy to breed, and they are generally the right size for a human.
Okay.
And at the size that at the pace that they get bigger, we can essentially make a pig if we have to make one.
Wow, yeah.
And it'll grow to the right size really quick. So if you suddenly needed a heart, a lung, a liver, a kidney, the time from ordering a pig, we're not there yet, but this is the future. You could order that organ and it could be grown to the size you need it to be in a matter of months.
Wow.
So it's a really cool idea. And the amount of things they're doing to make sure that your immune system will accept it are amazing. So what we're seeing out in NYU is they're showing all these advances. They're getting closer and closer to creating an essentially off-the-shelf product. You need a kidney? Oh, we'll pick one up in the helicopter. We'll bring it right to your OR. Yeah. So you have these cool farms. Our farm just doesn't do it justice. So it's not really a farm. It's a giant scientific facility that is making these pigs. And essentially, when needed, they'll take them to the OR, which is usually near a helipad or some kind of transport area, to then deliver that organ to the site where it's needed.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
This is pretty futuristic. So, if you had to guess or, say this goes well, when could that come to Hoxworth potentially?
So what's interesting is The pigs have a different HLA system. So HLA stands for human leukocyte antigen. So the pig version is swine leukocyte antigen.
So there's
SLA.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So as we see this becoming more popular and more common, we're going to have to bring on a whole new slate of testing. So right now I'm looking for human leukocyte antigen antibodies. So that HLA testing, I'm going to need to be able to also do SLA testing. That will be the first barometer. We're going to bring up a whole new slew of testing abilities to monitor for rejection and compatibility. But ultimately, once we see people living longer and longer with these organs, and these are amazing humans that are volunteering to try out these new organs.
Yeah.
As we see and overcome any of those challenges to keeping it long-term or as long as a deceased organ lasts in a person, we're going to see this entering more of a mainstream. Wow. I would expect next 5 years, every year we're going to see more and more of this. Wow. And I expect that they're going to be quite successful.
This is different than 3D printing, but these are all kind of, again, things in the future that we could be doing to get people off of the wait list, which is the ultimate goal, I would imagine.
The ultimate goal, yeah. No matter, it seems that as we're getting better and better about doing more and more transplants and getting more permissive, and we're definitely getting a little bit more edgy, we're finding ways to get organs into people that traditionally wouldn't have had the opportunity. Yeah. And we're having great outcomes. This is just another tool in the toolbox. I think having access to, swine organs is going to be a huge boon for the industry.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned that it's been about a year that Hoxworth has been using living donors for livers.
So I misspoke.
Oh!
It seems that UC has been doing living liver donor transplants since 2020. July 2020 is when they kicked this off. And then Children's has been doing it since the late 90s. Amazing. I know. So it is a very small portion of liver transplants. Okay. So we do, in the United States, about roughly 9,000 liver transplants a year, okay? This is only about 5-6% of those transplants, but what a cool, another tool in the toolbox, another way to get people access to livers that might not have the opportunity otherwise.
Yeah, that's incredible. You and some of your team members went to the ASHI conference in Orlando. First of all, what is ASHI? What's that conference? Why did you attend?
Sure.
Besides to go to Orlando.
Obviously, it's never sad to go somewhere warmer when the cold weather hits. So ASHI is the American Society for Histocompatibility and Immunogenetics.
No wonder they call it ASHI.
That's a mouthful. American Society for Histocompatibility and Immunogenetics. So ultimately, this is the international society that is going to get together all the people that specialize in HLA work. Okay. And this is a very niche group of people. So there's people that are certified histocompatibility techs, certified histocompatibility specialists, and then histocompatibility directors, and I'm one of those. Okay. There's only a little bit more than 100 HLA directors certified by ASHI within the United States. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a niche group, but it's a really cool gathering every year where people who are experts in this field can get together and talk about way things are changing. Mm-hmm. And one of those hot topics is virtual crossmatch, which we started talking about at the beginning of this segment. Virtual crossmatch is becoming more and more utilized at every center because it decreases time. It makes things more efficient. And ultimately, we're seeing great outcomes. What makes Hoxworth really interesting is that we are a pretty high volume HLA lab because we serve a lot of different transplant programs, multiple organ types, and multiple facilities. Mm-hmm. And we have deployed this virtual cross-match model to all of our customers. And we have seen great outcomes. Mm-hmm. So what we got to do is we blinded the identity of our customers, but we showed that our outcomes for our patients, even our aggressive programs that are really, doing really cutting-edge stuff, those patients are doing as well or better than the national average. Mm. So there's a lot of people who have some hesitancy. Obviously, new technology scares people. Change is hard. Mm-hmm. But our model of doing virtual cross-match for everyone, we don't have guards that say some people can't have it unless there are written rules. You might not be eligible to have one, of course, if you don't have a recent sample or if you've had a sensitizing event, things of that nature. But we use this for almost all of our waitlisted patients when organs become available, and we're having great results. What makes us unusual, though, is we have decided to have some of our high complexity testing personnel. So these are the people that are doing the hard work in the middle of the night. They're interpreting these really difficult to understand lab tests. We let them call the virtual cross matches. Most programs make that decision go through a director, which is not required by law. We began training all of our techs, and we have found that they do not surprising. They do an amazing job. They do a great job. And so we have had a not tech run, but a tech performed virtual cross-match model for the last 3.5, 4 years, and we are seeing amazing outcomes. So we were debuting our results at ASHI to show that using a virtual cross-match model run by well-trained, very experienced techs has great outcomes, and it doesn't necessarily have to come across my cell phone for each one of those because they are doing great work. I still review all of them, but they're able to participate very closely in this exchange of lab information, and they will release the results of that virtual cross-match test to the center as they find those results in real time.
Wow. So was the industry interested in this? Did they ask you guys questions and all that kind of stuff?
So it's interesting because the it's kind of split right now.
Really? Oh, wow.
Maybe more.
Talk about
split.
edgy.
This is polarizing. I'm not going to lie.
Wow, that's
in my
fascinating.
Niche world.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't like the idea of techs releasing virtual cross-match results. A lot of people think that everything should go through a director. But I'd like to again once point out that there's only about 100 of us.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big bottleneck for the United States, which is trying to accelerate transplant. It's trying to make things more efficient. It's trying to make things operate more smoothly. And so we saw this as an opportunity to remove a bottleneck. I mean, I think I'm a wonderful bottleneck, but, we saw this as an opportunity to do better and more efficiently the work that we were doing every day. And we've just seen great outcomes.
Well, I mean, it goes back to, again, that timing and efficiency, and people are waiting. People are, it's life or death.
Absolutely.
And they're waiting on that list. And if you can speed that process up, I imagine you're just going to save more lives, which is the goal.
Absolutely. And so we're by no means the only center using virtual cross-match, but we are one of the few that does have our high complexity techs performing those virtual cross-matches throughout the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But that allows us to serve so many communities and help get so many more people off the wait list.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. The automated robot for antibody testing.
We're talking about all the things that make me happy.
Yeah. And donor typing, I guess, is what so explain to us, we have a robot in the lab. What's this robot doing?
2 robots.
Do they have names? We should give them names.
We're working on the names.
Okay, we're working on it.
We
Stay
do
tuned.
Name all of our equipment. Our flow cytometers have names. Our freezers have names. So yes, our robots will have names. But ultimately, Hoxworth was one of the first labs in the United States to get one of the automation robots a decade ago. Okay, and that thing has been performing amazingly for 10 years, but they're sunsetting it. Okay? It's very sad. This workhorse in our lab. So this is a robot that we can set up these plates for dozens and dozens of people on the wait list, and it goes about the business and does all the testing for us, and we just wait for the results, and then the results are not easy. The results are very difficult to interpret, which is why being an HLA tech is such an amazing thing, because the amount of training that goes into understanding these complex results is it's a lot of training and a lot of time to become an expert in this field. But when a robot performs a lot of these antibody solid phase assays, it eliminates variability. So, some of these steps involve slapping the plate down essentially to get the fluid off, but not disturbing the cells at the bottom of the tray, which is, this is niche once again. I'm sorry for those that are still awake. But a robot always does it the same way. Yeah. The robot doesn't have a sore wrist. The robot doesn't get distracted by a cell phone. The robot is always going to do it the same way. So we see a reproducibility improvement when we use that robot. Yeah. And they just debuted the newest version. And so, of course, we had to be first in line. So we were, once again, one of the first groups to get the new robot, which now does not just antibody testing, but also molecular testing, which is super cool. So we've really brought it up. It's live now for all the testing modalities, and it is working alongside our older robot, which we will hold on to as long as we can.
Yes, we're not like letting them go rogue.
Absolutely not.
Completely, but not yet. Okay, the other thing that we wanted to talk about, because we've done these recipient stories, and a couple of our recipient stories, actually several, have been stem cell transplants, and they talk about how their blood type can change. So we talk about ABO typing all the time and how important that is, but your blood type can change if you get a stem cell transplant. Absolutely. Explain to me how this happens, and because we think that that's part of our DNA. Your DNA can never change, but turns out this can. So explain.
Sure. No, this is a great topic because it's super cool. When we give you a solid organ, so let's say your surgeon puts in a solid organ transplant, the DNA from your donor is in that organ, right? Mm-hmm. So you are you, but you have donor DNA and donor cells in the form of a kidney, a liver, a lung, intestines, a pancreas, whatever was transplanted. Mm-hmm. When you get a bone marrow transplant, we're transplanting stem cells into your bone marrow. So you undergo a lot of preparative medications and therapies to essentially get rid of your bone marrow, because you're getting a bone marrow transplant typically because your bone marrow is misbehaving. Mm-hmm. Either you have a leukemia or lymphoma, or you have something where your stem cells making your blood cells have gone awry. Okay. And we're kicking it out. We're going to hit a reboot. So the reboot is typically, not always, but typically coming from a healthy donor. Mm-hmm. So we are reprogramming your blood cells. So unlike putting in a kidney or a liver, we are reprogramming your blood cell production factory. So the DNA from your donor now becomes your blood cell factory. So now you're putting out red cells, white cells, and platelets that are genetically identical to the donor. Mm-hmm. But the rest of your body, your cheek cells, your muscles, your organs, that's still your original DNA, makeup, your original signature. But your blood, which is typically what we test, right? Your blood cells, your red cells, your white cells, the white cells are what I always test. Mm-hmm. Those are going to be your donor's DNA. And so what's very interesting is, like in a forensics case, now we're getting into murder mystery novels.
Where my mind went to.
So now your skin cells are the original pre-transplant you, but your blood cells are somebody else. So these are things that have to be considered in forensics trials and in cool, complicated workups. Yes. Because now you are a hybrid, right? Your blood is now the donor, but the rest of you, your skin cells, your hair, your cheek cells, that's the original you. Yeah. So it's pretty cool that you become this chimera that is genetically, you got two genetic identities that you get to live with.
So let me just try and go back to the basics. The HLA 101. Yeah. Your bone marrow makes the stem cell, which makes the red cells?
Correct.
Okay.
So your stem cells, one of the ways that people describe them is little ships, mm-hmm. right? Stem cells are little ships that live in your bone marrow is the marina. Okay. And they're just kind of hanging out there. And those ships are set free to become red cells, white cells, platelet. They mature, molecular pathways, lots of complicated business, but they mature into all the cells floating around mm-hmm. in your blood. Okay. So when we do a bone marrow transplant, we're cleaning out the marina and only putting the ships from the new donor in there, who's now going to be making the red cells, the white cells, the platelets, using the donor DNA.
Okay. And oftentimes, at least with the people we've talked to, those transplant recipients might also need platelets or red cells, right? Like in the process, they might also be getting, which goes back to why we need just regular blood donors, platelet donors, because in a lot of the things that you do, organ transplant or stem cells, these people are getting blood products too.
Lots of blood products. Yeah. Absolutely. So with bone marrow transplant, if you think about it, we don't drain you of your blood in the middle of a bone marrow transplant. So your original cells are still floating around. So let's just make something up. Let's say you are blood group A, okay? So you've got A blood cells floating around your body, and then I transplant you with group O. Mm-hmm. Those group O stem cells need some time to settle into the marina before they're going to be capable of producing lots of O red cells. Okay. So there's going to be a period of time where you're going to be still your original A because mm-hmm. the new factory's booting up. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to be A and O. You're going to have both of them floating around. And eventually you'll transition to O as your cells that are circulating die, they live on for 118 days, those red cells. So as they eventually get cleaned out of your system in a normal, natural mechanism, you will slowly become all the new donor blood type.
That's fascinating. Okay, so it all takes time. Everything takes time. And, I'm not a very patient person. So I don't know how you do it, but it all it's fascinating how your body will just kind of renew itself on its own if you're a healthy person, right?
Absolutely.
But sometimes we have to do things, or your department has to do things with the help of a lot of other staff members.
Absolutely.
To make the body do these things naturally in the right way.
And what makes it even more complicated is in that in-between time when you're both blood types, we have to be really careful about what blood we give you. Because we got to give you blood that's compatible with both blood types.
Yeah.
If you think about ABO compatibility of blood, in that peri-transplant period, we got to make sure we don't upset the newcomer blood cells or the older blood cells. So we're using universally compatible blood types. So you're typically only going to be receiving blood group O cells.
Yeah.
And typically you'll be getting AB plasma, which is devoid of any antibody types.
Okay, wow. Again, why we need our O donors especially. We need all donors, but this is why we hype that up so much, because we think about trauma because you don't know their blood type, but also in this instance where you're in that in-between period, we're going to give them O type as well.
Absolutely. So. And here at the Blood Cancer Healing Center, you see it's expanding rapidly.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing more and more regional people getting those transplants they need in a local setting, which is so wonderful.
Yeah.
And we're needing more and more of those blood products to make sure that they have the most optimal experience throughout that transplant period. Yeah,
supply and demand. The demand is up, so we need the supply up, and that's where donors come in.
Community supporting community.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole full circle moment. Anything else happening in HLA that you want to mention?
Just we continue to grow. It's such an exciting field, transplant. We're just seeing more and more transplants every year. And that's as the technology's changing and people are willing to really push new, boundaries to see what we can do to get people off that wait list. We've got the cool xenotransplantation. We've got, people taking a little bit more risks with antibodies. We've got, crossing boundaries. We've got living donors, this amazing living donors that we see with kidney donation and liver donation. We're really exploring any way we can to make sure that more people in this community have a chance to live off of a wait list.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Alquist, for being here today. And that's it for today's episode of Hoxworth Unfiltered. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, there's nothing more powerful than sharing life through donation. If you learned something new today, which I'm sure you did, share this episode with a friend, leave us a review, or hit the follow button so you never miss an update. And next time someone mentions HLA, you'll be the smartest one in the room. Until next time, stay curious, save lives, and keep it unfiltered.